Sorry to my grandparents listening if you ever do. Oh
Mom, you should have turned this off 10 minutes ago. Please don't listen to this.
Where are the quiet gays? Where are the quiet gays supposed to go?
I just went through my morning routine of filling my coffee cup way too full and then slowly double-handed walking it to my destination. So I'm so prepared to talk about it now.
I have my trusty Diet Coke.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Lesbian Book Club podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Haylie, a Taurus, and this is Lauren, a Capricorn.
Hi.
We are so excited. We're going to be covering Disobedience today, and Disobedience was released in 2018 and directed by Sebastian Lelio. So let's get into it.
Yes, and it stars Rachel Weisz and Rachel McAdams, double Rachels here, which... oh my gosh. I can't believe that Rachel Weisz is actually, she's got to be bi, right? Like, I know she's married to a man, but well, from all the clips I've seen of her, she has like one of my favorite clips where the interviewer asks what she's excited about on the red carpet. And she's like, I'm just excited to look at all the pretty girls. And I'm like, you're gay.
That's a very bi thing to say. Yeah.
Exactly. So... oh my God. And then, yeah, Rachel McAdams, who is one of the most versatile actresses I think I've ever seen. Like, did you know that she did Mean Girls and The Notebook in the same year?
I did.
That's crazy.
The swing that you would have to go through emotionally. I mean, just thinking about that as an artist, to get yourself in the headspace of The Notebook, Lauren just absolutely fell.
I was trying to match you on the Zoom, like proportionately, and I went to push my computer back, but I'm the biggest klutz in the world, and I almost just completely knocked over my mic, my computer, my soda. I almost just knocked over everything.
She not only fell, but the look in her eyes was pure bewilderment, and her arms just went completely stiff and straight.
I caught it though. I caught it.
It was a good moment.
Oh my God.
I wish you all could have seen that.
I'll put it on the freaking. I'll put it on the Instagram. I have no shame. Yeah, for Rachel McAdams to go from being like a complete bitch to this like complete sweet, like lost in love girl, it's crazy to me.
Yeah. Which, okay, I need to just go on like a 5-second tangent right now about Mean Girls and Mean Girls the musical and Sabrina Carpenter and Renee Rapp, because I'm in love with both of them, and usually femmes are not my thing, and Sabrina Carpenter isn't even a lesbian, but I'm in love with her. And there was like one show that they were in it at the same time right before COVID hit, and I just really wish I was there.
Oh, who did Sabrina play in I'm assuming she was in the Mean Girls musical?
Sabrina was Katie and Renee was Regina George, obviously.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Really?
Also,
how did I not know that?
I don't know. But also, one of my friends went to high school with Renee, and I guess she wasn't very nice in high school, which makes me sad.
Okay, if you're that hot, you don't have to be nice. It's fine.
I don't think that's true. I think that if you're that hot, you have to be extra nice.
Okay, hold on, because I have to tell everyone this, because it's like my claim to fame. Renee Rapp and I have so many of the same placements. So she's a Capricorn sun. That's one. We're the same. She's a Pisces moon, just like me. Same. She's a Capricorn Mercury. Same. She has there's another one in there that we are the same. What's her rising? I forget. But we have like 5 of the same placements. And listen, I mean, actually I was really nice in high school because I didn't have that many friends. So I was nice to my friends. But, I definitely, like, Capricorns can just have like a bratty mean side. So she's like perfect for Regina George. But she seems really sweet now. Just not if you're like that one bus guy that she really hated in that one interview.
Oh, she ripped him apart.
Which I love it. Don't ever change Renee Rapp. Did you see her at Coachella? I mean, I know you weren't there because you were with me this weekend, but did you catch the clips?
No. Here's the thing. I wander around. I sometimes look on the internet, but I don't usually see the things that you ask me about.
That's true. Unless I send them to you, which I think I sent you a Renee Rapp clip of the L Word introducing her. And oh my God, you're not going to get this. The L Word cast, I sent this to you. I said, this is going to be you in like a year.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you didn't know who the people were. Okay, so Bet and Renee Rapp's girlfriend, Toa, they are like the same person, like 30 years apart. And then everyone is saying that like Renee Rapp and Tina are like the same, which on the L, let me explain this to you. On the L Word, Bet and Tina are together and they're like the most canon, iconic lesbian couple. They're amazing. And then Renee Rapp and Toa look almost identical to them. They're like blonde for Tina and Toa has like big curly hair and so does Bet and I'm in love with Bet. So this was so cool for me. Okay. And then Renee did like the most amazing concert. She didn't have like backup dancers. She didn't have anything. It was just like her vocals and like her band. And it was incredible. They're calling it like Sapphic Cella. Because of all the lesbians there.
I did see a couple posts of my friend Jules is there and she's like, Renee, you were so engaging the entire time. Renee, oh my God, you were wonderful. Renee. And I'm just like, okay, I guess Renee gave a great performance. But I didn't actually see anything of Renee.
Okay, fair. But Chappell Roan also fucking crushed it. So here's something really cool about her is I went to this event called Queer Field Day. I went to like yeah. If you're in LA, go to the events. I think they're starting up again. They're incredible. But we went the second, I think it was like their second or third one. They did like a picnic in the park thing, and Chappell Roan performed there. And this was in 2021. Yeah, it had to be like summer of 2021 before like anyone knew her. And now there's like this clip going viral from that show of her singing Pink Pony Club, which is where I fell in love with her in the song I fell in love with her with. And then like cut to like her Coachella performance. And it's like, everyone's just like, oh my gosh, like how far you've come. And I was like, I was sitting like 3 rows away from this performance. Oh my gosh.
I just got chills because LA, just crazy things like that can happen.
I know. Bob the Drag Queen was there like at the performance. There was like, it was so cool. I'm like, I'm sure I have like a video of it somewhere in my phone. But yeah, it's really cool. I'm like obsessed with her. Her song Good Luck Babe, that's going to be like my new karaoke song. I literally on the way to the bar yesterday, because Haylie and I watched the WNBA draft at this great bar in Culver. And I literally I made a karaoke playlist for the drive down there because I was like, it's a karaoke bar, which I've never done karaoke in my life, except I'm too scared. I'm too scared to like actually get up there and do it. I've done it at Brent's house, our friend Brent. I've sung there before, but
we've got to get you out to karaoke. What's that place? The Barney's Beanery. At Barney's Beanery, I did it for the first time back because I had a traumatic karaoke experience, and then I had so much fun at Barney's Beanery.
But you can sing.
I'm reintroduced to the world of karaoke, so we can go.
Okay, that's
where I was going with that.
I'll go and I'll support you.
No, I'm saying you have to also do it.
Okay, I'm just like a middle of the road singer. I'm not like, I don't have like talent or anything.
Babe, do you know how many people are absolutely terrible karaoke singers and still get up there?
I have like major, what's it called? I don't have like stage fright. Like, okay, I could give a speech in front of 10,000 people and not give a fuck. But I feel like I like want to be a good singer. So if I get up at karaoke and everyone's like, ew, I'm going to have like my dreams crushed of being a Grammy singer.
I see. So you want to keep it to yourself.
Yeah. If you come, have we sang in the car together yet? I feel like we have to have. I sang Renegade for you. I sang Renegade for you. And I think I sang You're Losing Me. I can belt a Taylor Swift song. That's for sure. Okay, let's talk Disobedience. You had not seen it before, right?
No, I hadn't seen it before. And right in the opening scene, this old man is there, and I'm like, Okay, he's talking about angels and God versus beasts and impulse versus humans and choice. And I was like, okay, immediately the title is coming into play with disobedience because humans and choice. And like, okay, are they choosing angels and God or beasts and impulse? And I think we're going to have some disobedience happening.
Yes.
I already know where we're going with this, but.
So yeah, it's a, I don't want to say Hasidic Jewish community because I don't know fully what that term means, but it's definitely like an extremely conservative Jewish community where this movie takes place. And yeah, I love the beginning. So actually, do you know this about me? I have a biblical studies degree and I went to Bible college and studied for like 4 years there. And I was like an Old Testament girly, which sounds really weird because like I love the Old Testament. So I think I saw this movie when I was like 1 or 2 years into school and I was like, oh my God, I'm like, this is so intriguing for me. And then I haven't watched it in like a really long time. And then this stuff came back and obviously I'm not like in the religious community anymore. And everything like came back to me and I was like, I am an Old Testament girly. I love this shit. Like, this is so fun. So yeah, I think they're like, it's like the main rabbi of the community is like going through the Torah and like talking, like doing not a sermon because that's like a Christian term, but like that type of thing at the very beginning. But then I love that it like cuts to such a stark contrast. You just hear like the photography shutter click. And then we cut to like Rachel Weisz in New York, who is a photographer, like photographing this like really old man with all these tattoos. And like, it's just like a really cool, like from the not modern to like the really modern.
When she's doing that, the man she's photographing with the tattoos makes a comment about he has Jesus and a cross on his chest. And he makes a comment about like, oh yeah, the Jesus hurt me the worst. And he's speaking about the tattoo because of the placement. Right. And he got that tattoo the first when he was 15. But just that comment and then the way that she reacted to it, I was like, okay, I don't know this girl's relationship, but I think that she's obviously tied to this community somehow of this scene that we just saw.
Right.
And that gave me this sort of insight of, okay, probably it's not Jesus because it's this Jewish community, but probably religion has hurt her or is going to hurt her in some way. That was just a really interesting comment to have this guy make.
I love the writing in this movie. I feel like it's so poignant and like everything has like, because there's actually not that much dialogue. I think this movie has so much silence in it. I think the director and like, you know, whoever else wrote it, the storytellers in this movie, let the silence like do the talking, which I like love. I think we talked in a previous episode where like you say so much in the silence and how women like communicate so well, like non-verbally. And I felt like the words that were used in the writing in this movie, everything was like soaked in like meaning and emotion.
Yeah, there's no words that go to waste.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Do you have like a religious community background or anything like that?
Yeah, I grew up in the Methodist church and my dad is not religious, but my mom, I mean, we were never super religious, but like my grandma and my aunts and my cousins, we would all go. None of the men really went. Like every once in a while, an uncle would show up. Yeah, and so I grew up kind of, it was more of a community to me more than anything else. And I went to church camp in the summer, and that was really special to me. My mom still goes to church, and I go on holidays, but I wouldn't really consider myself religious anymore. I would consider myself spiritual. Yeah, that's where I grew up, was in the Methodist church. And it wasn't ever like, oh, you have to go every single Sunday. Yeah. And you have to believe this. And, you know.
So it wasn't as like dogmatic as like what we're going to see in the film.
No, and there's kind of two divisions of the Methodist church, and one is very strict and one is like very liberal. And I grew up in a very liberal church.
Nice. Yeah. So Jesus didn't hurt you as much.
No. There were pride flags in my churches. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love flags. I love your accent. Your Midwest accent comes out on those words.
Flags, bags.
Yeah, say bagel.
Bagel.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it. So what happens while we are looking at Rachel Weisz doing her photography job?
Well, she gets a call, and we don't immediately know what it's about, but we do know that preacher had just, or the rabbi had just collapsed. So probably it's related to that. And then we see, her reaction to this is she's going through the stages of grief in the following scenes.
Yeah.
And she's obviously trying to deal with something. She's having sex, she's going ice skating, she's crying, she's smoking, she's doing whatever. So she then ends up back in this community knocking at this door, and the man who opens the door is surprised to see her.
Right. But she doesn't seem to register that surprise at all, I felt like, because she was just like, oh, hey, I'm here. And her name is Ronit. So Rachel Weisz's character's name is Ronit, and Rachel McAdams' character is Esty. Actually, I'm going to pull up the cast so I can remember everyone's names.
Yeah. The man that opens the door is David.
Yeah.
David. David.
This is where my auditory learning comes in so well, because I can do the pronunciations.
And I'm just reading it.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, and David is played by Alessandro Nivola. I just pulled that up. I feel like if we say the two main women characters, we can give the man a name, I guess. Yeah, he opens the door. He seems confused to see her there. And, something that I feel like is a running thread through this movie is touch, physical touch, and hugs and love through physical touch. And Ronit goes to give David a hug because she obviously knows this man, and he backs away so quickly because it's improper in that community, I believe, to have physical contact with somebody who's not your spouse. But Ronit, coming from New York, who just fucked this dude in the bathroom, who I'm sure she didn't even know, it doesn't have any of these hangups from it. But we find out that it's her father that passed away. He was the head rabbi of this community, and he passed away at a heart attack, and they're doing some type of gathering. I'm assuming they're sitting Shiva, which is the Jewish tradition of I think it's 7 days. Everyone stays at the house, and it's a mourning period. And please correct me if you know if I'm wrong, or if any of our listeners, I do my best here. But yeah, so she comes in, and it's not a warm welcome for who you would think what it would be for a child who just lost a parent.
Yeah. And we also very quickly get the sense that they have had some sort of very close relationship in the past, these two individuals.
Yeah.
And for a while, I actually thought that maybe they were brother and sister.
Oh.
Which in a sense, sort of, I guess, because, there's later lots of comments made about how David was sort of taken in as a son figure by the rabbi. And what actually the relationship was is that these two are best friends, and there is a third best friend.
Yes.
And that is Esty.
We learn that when they're in the kitchen, and they're kind of they finally David's very serious and solemn demeanor kind of cuts, and they get a little joke in here or there, and we're oh, they used to be really good friends. And then she's kind of joking with him are you married? Oh, who'd you marry? Please don't have married this one girl. And then he doesn't really answer because he doesn't really want to tell her who she married. And she kind of jokingly is oh my God, you actually did marry her, didn't you? This random girl that they used to not like or whatever. And he was no. And there's a really sweet, you can really see that they used to be friends. But then Esty comes in, who's Rachel McAdams, in a wig, which the first time I saw this movie, tell me if you had the same reaction. I did not know that was a wig until she took it off.
No, I knew it was a wig because that's
Because you're more perceptive than me.
Well, no, because I know that once they get married, they aren't allowed to show their real hair except to their spouse. So they have to wear these wigs. Yeah, it's just a modesty thing.
Yes. Yeah. And Esty comes in and the way it's broken to Ronit that they're married is David said like, oh, hey, like I said that she could stay with us. And the look on Rachel Weisz's face, or I'm sorry, Ronit's face, is one of like sheer disbelief that they are married.
Yeah, it's now an us, and the us doesn't include her anymore. You can see this used to be a trio. Mm-hmm. She has now left the picture, and now they are married. And you can see that there's some sort of betrayal here.
Yeah.
Why? Is there something more than just like, well, we were 3 best friends, you didn't tell me that you were getting married? Or is there something that's a deeper betrayal than that? And at this point, we don't know.
And it's also like important to point out that I feel like this community works similarly to like, say, like the Amish community, where if somebody leaves the community or like leaves the fold, they are completely cut off from the community. And like, I don't want to say ostracized, but like they don't have contact. We find out later in the movie that like people are upset that somebody told Ronit that her father died because that's like breaking the rules. And I find that like terribly heartbreaking for the person who leaves. I don't know. It just seems like not only are you like making a decision to like leave this community that you grew up in and were born into and had people that you loved in it, but you're also like, you have no contact with them. So she didn't know that her 2 best friends growing up got married. She might have not even been informed that her father died had it not been for the person who told her, which we find out later who that is. But yeah, it's really sad.
I was noticing that it really seems like Ronit doesn't have any sort of distaste or disdain for this community. It's not like she doesn't love them or she doesn't, you know, even dislike how they operate, really. I think that for her, a lot of it came down to just feeling like she didn't have choice over her life, even further than not being able to decide the path of her life, but her own identity was being told that it wasn't okay.
Yeah.
Which I'm maybe getting a little bit ahead of myself, but
I mean, we are a lesbian podcast. So.
Yeah. But just speaking on, you know, like the love for the people in her community, that is a really hard thing to have to step away from, and making that choice of knowing like, okay, I may never speak or talk to or see these people again.
Yeah.
And my entire way of life is going to change. And that's a big deal. So that also speaks a lot to the character of Ronit, of the sort of risk that she's willing to take. Also, the sort of detachment that she's gone through at this point, too.
Yeah, Ronit has that like edge and like bravery, kind of like that bullheadedness about her to her character, where she's gonna do what she wants to do regardless of the implications, I feel like. Whereas like Esty is like, it's so interesting because Esty is very different. She's very like, not demure, but like it seems like she's not brave. She's more timid. But she also has this, like, as we go on through the movie, a very intense personality, I feel like. But before we get there, I wanted to go back to like the physical touch thing because, you know, nobody in this room has comforted Ronit. You know, like when you lose someone, normally you walk into a room and everyone gives you a hug and says, I'm so sorry for your loss, and, you know, all these things. And I want to talk about Fruma, which I want to say is like her aunt. Or like a could be a real aunt or a like metaphorical aunt in the community. But as soon as she sees Ronit, she like walks up to her and gives her a hug, and just like you can feel the relief in Ronit's body to like get that hug from someone. Like, oh, someone here like still loves me. Yeah. And that was like a really powerful scene to me because it's like, you know, sometimes we think of these communities as like a monolith and everyone's the same, but that's so not true. It's the same anywhere. There are people who are going to love you even within these religious communities or these, you know, more conservative communities, and they're going to see you as a person. And she just, was like, I'm so sorry, your father passed away, and just gives her this big hug. And to me, I was like, oh, thank God she has like an ally. She has someone there who loves her,
Yeah, that was a really beautiful moment between the two of them. And in contrast to, you can tell that the other people in the room and the people in her community feel betrayed by her, that she left.
Yeah.
Which we never really get anything about that as to why they might feel wronged or betrayed by her, except for from her uncle, who kind of makes a comment about like, you were all that your father had, and you weren't there for him in his last moments. And she kind of makes the argument of, well, I didn't know. I didn't know he was dying. And he says, well, you would have if you were here.
Which I feel like is so unfair. Like, that's so unfair. Like, that's like shucking off the responsibility of like a community to inform somebody of the goings on if something's happening, right? Like, I don't know. I just felt that was such a, her argument made sense to me. She's like, I'm over here in New York. If he was suffering, why didn't anyone tell me? And he's like, well, if you were here, if you didn't leave, like shaming her for like living her life. And I just, which is that guy is Fruma's husband. So you see like the interesting dynamic, because he almost like gets upset with her, with Fruma, for being like, so like, he doesn't like that she's so loving and kind to Ronit, which he's a character for sure.
Yeah. The next thing that I noted, and let me know if I'm missing something here, is when David makes a comment to Ronit, where he says that honor is the most important thing. You can see that Ronit does not agree with him. That really stuck out to me, because I'm now wondering, okay, so clearly this is a point of contention here, and maybe part of the reason why Ronit left in the first place.
Yeah.
But you can see that he just like fully believes this, and he's so assured and calm when he says this, and then he just moves on, and she's upset.
Yeah. Everything is very dogmatic. It's a very black and white movie with a lot of like very high contrast situations. And, like we said, the dialogue, it's very contrasty when people are going back and forth with Ronit. And that's what I'm saying about her being so bullheaded and like brave. If they're the white, she's the black, right? Like she's the black sheep even, and that honor situation was really interesting, because she's just like, nah.
Yeah. It's also, this goes hand in hand with whenever she's trying to have a conversation with somebody and she's asking somebody a question and they respond with, may you live a long life.
They don't want to answer. They just are doing their duty. They're saying the thing that they're supposed to say out of ritual. And that's supposed to like shut people up and like stop the conversation.
Yeah, she is definitely out of her element, which this used to be her element.
Right. I think is when you get further away from the community that you were once in, and you step away and you see the rest of the world and you see how things could be, and they end up not being as harmful or as scary as like maybe what you have been brought up in. I think it's a lot harder to fake it when you go back, because you're like, if you guys only knew. And that's not to say it's like a high and mighty stance, because we get into it with Ronit and Esty being like, this is my community and this is what I like, and I do like these things about it, But I think it's hard for somebody who has walked away to come back and then like be in that community for X amount of days that's just going to be there, because there's the funeral for her father coming up. But yeah, so it's just very interesting. So Ronit's going to be staying with David and Esty.
Yes. And at first I thought that, Esty was getting the sense that Ronit was judging her for this life that she's living, right?
Yeah.
And then Esty starts to, it seems, overcompensate. She starts to, really come on to David and is making the first move with him in a way that seems very clearly unnatural.
Yeah, very forced. Yeah, we see them like, is this when they're in the bedroom And yeah. And I mean, they're married. So you're like, why does this seem so unnatural and forced? And he even seems like surprised by it. He's like, oh,
Yeah.
like, and it's like, is she like marking her territory? Like, what is going on here? And it's very interesting. It's so interesting to me for like to hear your perspective as seeing it for the first time, because I feel like the first time I watched it, I was very confused. And then the second time I watched it, everything made sense to me. Like everything made, like that scene made so much more sense to me. Okay, so yeah, we're in the bedroom and like, let's just talk about this in knowing what's happened, because I'm assuming most people who have listened have seen the movie. But Esty, we find out later on in the movie, is like hella gay, like not interested in men whatsoever. And to me, like I really related with Esty because I, as like also another like gay woman who was in a heterosexual marriage for almost 10 years, that scene to me where she's like convincing herself. She's trying to convince herself that this is the life she wants and this is the thing she wants and this is the man that she wants. And I was like, oh, that's so hard. 'Cause I've been in that situation being like, no, like this is fine. This is what I want. This is it. And it never feels right. Like the scene at the end, more towards the end, where Esty's talking to David after her and Ronit have actually like been together, which we could talk about later. But it's so heartbreaking because she's crying and she just like yells at him. It's always been this way. And to her, I think that's like the first time she was admitting it to herself. But going back to this scene, to me, it's like one of the saddest scenes because I think she's been able to put this part of herself away, actively putting this part of herself away. And with the arrival of Ronit, everything is stirred up again. And now you have to try even harder to put it away. And that's the way she chose to do it, was like, okay, I'm going to fuck my husband and I'm going to show that I'm like a good wife because that's what I have to be, or else my whole life is going to fall apart.
Yeah. She even, I mean, it's this whole thing too that she says of, well, he's a good man and, you know, they were best friends. And so what could be better than a good man? That'll be enough.
Right.
You know, that's decent. That's decent enough for me. I'll get by. And that's something that I'm sure that many people can relate to, and maybe you can too, of like, well, he's a good man. He's kind to me. We're friends.
Right.
Why isn't that enough?
And I think if Ronit never came back, she would have been fine. I mean, she was probably going to be dying inside her entire life, but it wasn't going to be smacking her in the face. This is literally her like moment of being like, everything's going to change. And what I think is also interesting is I think she brought it on herself for like a specific reason. I think she was so tired of this that she was like kind of testing herself, because she is the one that called Ronit to tell her about her father's passing. Yeah. And why would she do that if not that she wanted to rekindle, but she wanted to see. She wanted to see if what this was going to do to her. And I like fully understand that. Like, it's almost like bringing on a temptation to prove to yourself one way or the other, like what you are. What am I going to do with my life? Am I going to still have these feelings, or was it a one-off? Which I feel like you and I can like understand, like it's not a one-off. It's never a one-off. But yeah, it's a rough movie. I definitely, Esty, I could feel like her. I think Rachel McAdams did such a good job with this role. I don't know who she talked to, who she interviewed, who she, got her inspiration from this role. But I feel like it's what a lot of like queer women trapped in marriages with men feel like. And I think she captured it like incredibly well.
Yeah. I kind of thought, I mean, even though Ronit is kind of presented as the main character, I thought that Esty was the main character.
I know. I agree. I totally agree. I think that's what I was saying earlier, like when the movie goes on, Esty becomes like, she like steps into this like queer bravery inside of herself. And we also learn like Esty is also like, I don't want to like frame it this way, but like she is like the more dominant personality, which is like crazy. Like, you know, they go on this walk together and Ronit says, "This is the place where you first kissed me." And in every single scene where they kiss or they get together, Esty is the one that initiates. That to me is somebody who never stopped thinking about this in the sense of like her sexuality. Like I feel like it was always on the forefront of her brain. Once she kind of like accepts it in herself, she's like goes forward and is the one that initiates and is like, no, I'm going to go for this. It's very, very interesting. And I think you're so right that she is like the main character.
You know what this movie really reminds me of?
What?
Do you listen to Noah Kahan at all?
A little, yeah, I do.
Do you know the song Orange Juice?
No. So my Noah Kahan song is Dial Drunk.
Oh, that's a really great song.
Yeah, and Stick Season's really good too. But
also, yeah.
Yeah. No, what's Orange Juice?
Well, I'm a diehard Noah Kahan fan. I'm going in June. And there's a song that he wrote called Orange Juice. And it kind of tells a story. It seems like there's two people that are somehow in relationship with each other, and one has stayed and one has gone. And the one that has gone has come back, and the one that has stayed is the one that's talking and is saying like, there's orange juice in the fridge, help yourself. I know that everybody's drinking, but you're sober. Please help yourself to this orange juice. And then kind of goes on to say like, why did you leave? I've missed you. And then the narrator says, and you said, and then it starts talking from the person who left's point of view. Yeah. And then basically this other person is saying like, after this tragic thing happened, which you find out is a car crash that these two were in together. This tragic thing has happened, and it seems like they probably killed somebody. Like, how did you stay and just move on with your life? Yeah. Like, I had to get out of here. I had to go, and like, I have completely changed since that, and you haven't, and nobody else here has. And it's like, how could you possibly do that? Like, I've changed and the world has changed and the world has kept turning. And like, how did the world keep turning? And I was, and then you assume that the person that left is the one that was driving, because it says like, you didn't put those bones in the ground. And it really reminds me of this movie, because you take it and you put it into this scenario of these two people that were once so close and now they're not anymore. And, you know, the tragic scenario is not a car crash, but it's their love that wasn't accepted by their community. And one person has stayed, and it seems like their life just kept turning, and they got married and they acted like nothing happened. And the other person like completely left their life behind and moved across the world and turned into what seems like a completely different person. And it's a really beautiful, devastating song. You should listen to it.
I will. I'm going to listen to it as soon as we hop off.
But yeah, the whole time I was watching, I was like, ugh, orange juice.
I actually love that. I haven't listened to the song, but even just the name, it's like something so mundane can tell such a, oh my God, I'm like going to cry, can tell such a story. Like that small act of like, hey, there's orange juice in the fridge because I was always expecting you to come home and I have it there for you, right? That in and of itself, saying there's orange juice in the fridge, like it's not a thing. But when you put it in the context of like why it's there and whatnot, this movie is very similar. In that instance, like they were always thinking of each other, even all the way, you know, all the years later and with all the distance between them. Once they see each other again and like actually have a conversation about it, you know, their love and what they went through, which happens like sporadically throughout the film. I think the first instance we see it is when Ronit goes to visit her father's house. And that's actually like, that's the first time these two are alone together.
Esty never stopped looking out for Ronit. Yeah, even though it seems like her life kept turning, she never stopped looking out for Ronit. She hears at the grocery store that Ronit was walking past, and she goes and she finds Ronit at her father's house, and she meets her there. And you can see the grief. She's grieving as much as Ronit is, and maybe not even for the rabbi as much as she is for Ronit's loss.
Her grief is Esty's grief is at such a high level, and I think it's for Ronit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it has anything to do with the Rav. I don't think it has anything to do with anything but Ronit, because these two have such a connection and such a love for each other that, like, when you see, like, the love of your life going through a loss, you have no other feelings to feel except those same feelings that she's feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she apologizes to Ronit because the house is messy. She says that she wanted to come clean it, but that the rabbi had told her, not the one that died, not the Rav, but the other rabbi had told her.
The mean uncle.
Yeah. had told her that he was taking care of it and to not worry about it. So she hadn't come by, and you can see the regret about that she wishes that she had come and made sure that it was clean and ready for Ronit to see it. Yeah. And so she didn't even know that Ronit was going to come for sure. Yeah. So you can see here she is looking out for Ronit, even though she doesn't even know that Ronit's coming. And later on, she reveals that she had been checking what time it was in New York all since Ronit left. And if that's not something that you do when you love somebody, is you check to see what time they might be sleeping, or if maybe they're sitting down eating breakfast and drinking coffee, or, whatever it is. Yeah. She just wants to know, hypothetically, what sort of part of her day Ronit might be in. Mm-hmm. Esty never stopped loving her.
I know. Yeah, Ronit, that's so beautiful. Esty just wanted to be a part of her life, even though she wasn't actively in her life. And I think that's why she contacted Ronit, to let her know. I think she, obviously it is a devastating thing, but I think it was also an opportunity for Esty to kind of get back into Ronit's life in some way. And we also find out that Ronit doesn't inherit the house. Her father didn't leave it to her in the will, which is so sad. It was like her only daughter, his only child. And even, David and Ronit have this conversation because she's reading the obituary in the newspaper. And in the obituary, it says that the Rav had no children. The Rav had no children. And David tries to make light of it. And he says, oh, it's like shitty reporting. Mm-hmm. Like, that's terrible journalism right there. And Ronit just is like, yeah, I mean, it's like she was erased from everyone's lives. And the only person who kept her memory alive was Esty. Yeah. And every day she kept it alive. Yeah. Oh, I can't.
Yeah. So in the house, Esty takes the candlesticks for Ronit, which were her mother's, which Ronit was like, oh no, I can't take the candlesticks. It's not that big a deal, whatever. But
because she wasn't going to be allowed to take anything from the house or the house itself because her father didn't leave it. Yeah.
Yeah. But Esty makes sure that she gets them. She just slides them right into the suitcase. And it's in the house. Esty goes to comfort Ronit. It turns into a little more than comforting.
Well, there's the thing about, it starts out with a hug. It's the physical touch layer that runs through this movie, to me, is so palpable. Like, at first it's just like they're just close together and they're, and it turns into this big hug. And Ronit even says thank you for hugging her.
Esty kisses her. Mm-hmm. And at first Ronit isn't really reciprocating.
Mm-mm.
She's just kind of standing there while Estee's lips touch hers. And that's a little awkward. But then she finally just kind of gives in. And I think what's happening in her head is that, oh my God, everybody already hates me here. And now I'm going to come in and I'm going to fuck everything up and everything's going to be my fault. She kind of like works through that and then lets her guard down and then just gives in.
Yeah.
So now, you know, they're kissing, but then again, Ronit pulls away and is like, Esty, oh my gosh, what are we doing?
Well, yeah, the kiss like starts out really slow and soft, is like they're both like kind of like feeling it out, but then it like switches. It like this kiss changes into like, oh, this is a passionate thing that we're experiencing, and we either stop it right now, like right this second, because if we continue for another second, we're not going to be able to stop. That was like kind of the gist I got from it.
We're having sex against my dead father's fireplace.
Literally, yes. And that's when, and it's interesting because Esty doesn't want to stop. Like Esty is the one that's like, that's what I'm saying. She's the more dominant personality in this relationship, which I find fascinating.
Yeah. And you can tell too that Esty's feelings are a little hurt when Ronit pulls away. I think she's kind of battling with a little bit of rejection there, and also a little bit of like, holy shit, did I just fuck up my entire life for her to reject me?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I want to talk about the radio in this moment.
Please do.
Ronit goes and turns on the radio that's on the mantle. And this song comes on that both of them clearly know and start singing. Well, I mean, Ronit, at first it's like a religious channel, and Ronit keeps switching through the channels until this song comes on. Yeah. And the lyrics come on, it's like, you make me feel like I am home again. And you make me feel like I'm young again. You make me feel like I am fun again. You know, it's all these things that it's home again. Ronit feels like she's home again with Esty, and you make me feel like I'm young again. They both feel young again, and they both feel fun again, especially Esty probably. And then it goes into, I will always, and then she immediately just cuts it off, and you see the vibe in her change. And if you know the song, you know that the next lyrics are, I will always love you. And she cuts it off right before he says love you.
I know. I caught that too. It was so intentional. And Esty's kind of singing the song to Ronit.
Yeah.
And oh my God. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's so much silence, but there's so much said in this silence of like, this is just a song playing in the background, but neither of them are talking. They're listening to the song. They used to listen to it. Ronit's the one that puts it on. Like, there's so much pining and longing and like just desire, I feel like, in this movie. And you're just like waiting to see what happens. Like, it's like an edge of the seat type of movie.
Yeah. Also, I watched this in the library.
That's right.
I was...
You can't watch this movie in public.
Oh my gosh. Especially, okay, well, during this, like, the radio scene, which I think was my favorite part, I was sitting there, like, trying to look normal. Impossible task for me. But then during the sex scenes, I have the volume all the way down. I'm like DJing my keyboard, which I have a gaming computer. Yes, and so the whole thing just lights up in like blue and purple and red and goes crazy like I'm at the freaking disco. And so it's like sex on the screen, sound as low as possible, disco on the keyboard, and I'm like, I am drawing so much attention to myself right now, and And then I'm like putting the sound back up when the sex is done. And I'm like, I hope that nobody can hear through my AirPods right now. And oh my God, I had the worst sensor day of my life yesterday because there was just so much sound. There's a reason I was in the library, and then I get to the library and they're doing freaking construction on the roof. Jesus. And then this man came and sat next to me and kept snorting, and I'm like, there are so many seats. Why are you in the one next to me? And I literally got up and left because I couldn't handle it. I couldn't.
Oh my God. Sir, you are killing my vibe right now.
Yeah. I was such a trooper, and I got through the rest of the movie with this snorting man next to me.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
I was just like angling my computer away from him so he wouldn't see the women having sex on my screen.
That reminds me of when I was on a flight home. I went on a school trip to Spain with my Spanish class in like 10th grade. And I decided to watch Atonement, and I was sitting right next to my 60-year-old Spanish teacher. And you know that like library scene in like the green dress where he like puts her up against, you haven't seen Atonement, but he like puts her up against the library like books, and they just like fuck. And I was sitting right next to my 60-year-old Spanish teacher, and I was like, mortified. I was like, change it. But I didn't know how. And I was just like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me.
They had airplane movies when you were in high school?
I'm not that old. Oh my God. It was an international flight, so yes. They also had movies when I was that age. Oh man, I used to be the young one in my friend group, and now I'm the old hag who doesn't have, who like not have movies on my plane. We're chugging along here.
So we leave the house with the candlesticks. They're walking. And kind of the next thing that I want to talk about is in the classroom with Esty. And she's teaching Othello to her class. She's like in the middle of this when she gets brought out of class by the headmaster. And it's because she's been reported because she was seen with Ronit, which bad news for those two.
Correct. Yes, Ronit and Esty had gone on this like midnight walk together where they thought, they wouldn't be seen, and this is when they kind of just first talk about the two of them together. And this is the part where I already said they, had been to this tree, and Ronit's like, this is the place you first kissed me, and they go into this like fenced off area, and they just like start kissing, and they feel safe for like the first time, but then we find out they're not, because there are eyes everywhere in this community. And we feel like Esty gets away because she puts her hood up and she starts to walk away, and the man and the woman that see them are like, oh, Ronit, hi, what's going on? And they're like, oh, was that Esty? And then she was like, no. But she still gets reported, and that's why she gets pulled out of this class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at this point, David is up for promotion to replace the Rav.
Yeah.
And they question, these other men question, like, well, is Esty going to be up for it? Like, we know Ranit's in town. And he's like, I have my household under control. Why wouldn't Esty be up for it? Esty will support me in everything.
Yeah, and that was the first time we really see him be misogynistic. And it doesn't feel true to him. It almost feels like he's, well, first of all, trying to keep up appearances. Because he says, I keep my house in order. And she'll do what I say. And it feels so forced out of him, because I actually really believe David is a good guy. He just is also hampered by his religious community, not the religion itself, but the dogmatic teaching, right? And yeah, how did you feel about him saying that?
I think that overall, David was a victim in all of this too.
Yeah.
I think he's a victim of the system, but that put them all in this position in the first place.
100%.
And what I mean by putting them in this position is by not just letting these two women be who they are.
Yeah.
And and by putting him in a position where he felt like he had to act that way. And by putting them in a position where instead of just being able to be three best friends like they were, now these two had to be husband and wife, and they had to have sex every Friday. And they
Right. We also find out that that was the Rav's fault, because we find out when Esty and Ronit are like kind of reminiscing on one of these walks that they take. There's a lot of walks in lesbian movies, but we find out that I guess it sounds like Esty and Ronit, when they were girls, were either kissing or something was going on in Ronit's room, and the Rav walked in on them and just had a complete fit. Thank God he wasn't like in The Senator's Wife, the dad in that
I was going to say that all of these women and all this media, they keep having the same scenario of getting walked in on.
So what you'll find in our Sapphic education, Haylie, is that we have tragic stories. Everything is a tragedy all the time. We rarely live. No, but
oh God.
Yeah. But then she said that Ronit left. Esty says, you left and I wasn't doing well mentally. The first couple times I was like, that I watched this movie, I was like, she was sad. But the more I thought about it, I was like, I think she had possibly like some type of mental breakdown. Because then she continues to tell Esty what happened. And she says, the Rav thought getting married would cure me. And I mean, yeah, that could be taken as like, that would like fix your sexuality. But she really made it a point to be like, I wasn't doing well mentally. Like in the head, I was really messed up after you left. And she said, if I had to marry someone, David, what could be better than David? And oh God, like that really like broke my heart, because when you're so trapped and you're like searching and like you're not doing well mentally, you're like searching for anything that's going to make you feel better. And all the people you trust and respect are telling you like, do this will do it. And she did, and like nothing got better, you know? So anyway, that was a long-winded roundabout to say they got reported. David is being questioned about his fitfulness to take over the job, and he is like, yeah, it's all going to be fine. Meanwhile, I don't think it's going to be fine. Yeah, so she leaves. I think she gets sent home early, right? Her class gets taken over, and Ronit and her are just like, let's just fucking go somewhere. I can't stand all these eyes on me everywhere. I just want to be alone with you.
They hop on a train, they walk, blah, blah, blah. It looks like they end up in London.
I know. Where does this take place?
England.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Listen to their accents.
Okay, well, Rachel McAdams' accent is terrible. I was like, what is she trying to say? I gotta look this up.
I was halfway through the movie, and then I went, wait a second, do they have British accents?
Yeah, because they're all terrible. The accents. Wait, let's get to the sex scene, though, because it's one of the hottest scenes I've ever... Okay, so I'll give you my, like, top sex scenes.
Okay.
This one in Disobedience.
Okay.
Kate Winslet and Saoirse Ronan in Ammonite.
I haven't seen it.
I know. We'll watch it. Don't worry. It's incredible. And, okay, those are like my top two. I have another one. What the fuck is it? It's not... Portrait of a Lady on Fire does not come close. That was not a good one. Oh, man. Okay, I can't remember. I'll tell you later when I remember it. But those two scenes...
What about Black Swan? Mila Kunis.
I've seen it.
Natalie Portman.
I saw it one time. Trying to remember it. I don't remember this.
She eats her out.
Ooh, hot. I can't remember it. I was half watching. For reasons I will not discuss. Yeah, wink at me all you want, Haylie. That you're accurate. We will talk about that. We'll talk about Rachel Weisz and Rachel McAdams scene, though, because literally top two scenes for me. This is where, if you guys listen to our Jen Lyon interview, there's some spitting action. There's a lot of stuff, but it's also a beautiful scene. Let's not like discount how beautiful this scene was too.
Yeah, I made myself dizzy winking.
You didn't have to wink that hard. It wasn't really that hard or difficult to figure out what I was doing during Black Swan.
This was a beautiful sex scene to watch in the library, to watch in the public library.
Haylie and I have lost it all. We were out late last night.
We were out till 8 p.m.
Whatever, we're tired. Someone's 8 p.m. is someone else's 2 a.m., okay? Okay, so they rent this hotel room in North London. It's so quiet. The whole scene is so quiet. Except for Rachel McAdams' sex noises, which are very hot.
Oh, I have a comment about that.
Ooh, what?
So they were so natural in this one. They were literally the exact same sex noises that she was making in her sex scene with David earlier. But they were so forced before, and now they were just coming out of her.
Well,
like they just were happening.
Yeah, you know what? Good job bringing that up, honestly, because I wanted to talk about that too. When we see her and David having sex, she's making the noises, but her face is blank. She's looking to the side, her eyes are open, and she's just, and boy, that hit home for me, because again, I have been in that same situation where you're just like, okay, I'm going to just do it. And it has nothing to do with the husband. Nothing at all. It's just like, this is what we do. These are the noises I make. This is what, And yeah, with Rachel Weisz, they are the same noises, but they're different. Like her eyes are shut. Her back is arched. She's like actually enjoying herself.
Yeah. It was just like so stiff versus passion and heat.
Yeah.
And real connection with each other. Yeah. And also that feeling of just, if there's somebody that you love and that you have missed for years and years, and all of a sudden you have your hands on them, that's what is happening on screen.
100%. Absolutely. I liked when they were both using their hands on each other at the same time. I thought that was so hot. I was like, yes, I love that. That's like, so I just feel like it's weird to say like female friendly, but like it's like a sex act that only like two women can do. And it's
BFFs.
Yeah. And history will call them close friends, besties.
I love when adults that I know very well ask me like, how do lesbians have sex? And I'm like, are you really asking me how I have sex? Because that's such a weird question for you to ask.
I've gotten that question a couple times, and I'm like, well, you clearly don't have good sex, because if you did, you would be able to figure it out.
Yeah, like, do you really solely use a penis in the vagina and that's your entire sex?
Right. Which we can also do.
Sad life, my friend.
Seriously, I don't get people who don't have any imagination. It's so weird to me. But yeah, and then
sorry to my grandparents listening if you ever do. Oh no.
Mom, you should have turned this off 10 minutes ago. Please don't listen to this. That's great for us. It's fine. Whatever. Yeah, but okay, so the spitting scene. They've already like been having sex for probably like 3 hours at this point, because lesbian sex is a long time. I say it's like a portal.
A marathon.
Yeah. Oh.
Wait, what are you talking about?
It's like a time warp.
Yeah.
We've been fucking for like 4 hours now. That's oops. Like how'd that happen?
No, yeah, it's true.
But like things have like slowed down, and Rachel Weisz is like on top of Rachel McAdams, and they're just like looking at each other, and then like Rachel McAdams opens her mouth and Rachel Weisz like spits in her mouth, and like the pleasure on Rachel McAdams' face when she like swallows, I was like, holy fuck. That's one to keep in the brain right there.
Lauren's in the bedroom. She's like, and this is a little thing I got from Disobedience.
This is what I learned when I watched this movie. It wasn't the Jewish traditions. It was the spitting.
She has this citation on her ceiling so that her partner can see it.
Yeah. Okay, no more comments on that. We won't be getting into that. If it was on the ceiling, my partner couldn't see it.
She has the citation on the pillow behind her head.
Yep, perfect.
If you watch our TikToks, you know what she got.
Follow us on TikTok, guys. Okay, let's get into the ending here because it's rough. Because Ronit lives in New York. We also have seen David and Esty have sex twice in this movie, which is nice. It's not nice, but I'm saying it's nice that it's not forced. Because Ronit says, like, oh, do you have to have sex every Friday with your husband, Esty? She's like, no one's getting beat if we don't feel like it. Like, she's, like, defending the community. But, like, also she does have sex with him every Friday, it seems.
Well, it's Friday, we assume. And she's in the bedroom with David. And they're standing close to each other. It looks like, you know, he's trying to have sex with her. He's making an advance. And she says, please don't. He doesn't move away. He doesn't stop touching her. He doesn't change anything about his stance. And then we cut to both of them on the bed, unclothed. And she looks like she can't believe what just happened. And then cut to she's running into the bathroom to throw up.
Yeah.
So this is a really big shift in the kind of behavior that David has.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see now how threatened he is feeling and the way that he thinks that he's going to fix this. And also, this act in itself, I think, took a lot of the trust away that she had for David.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe pushed her over the edge a little bit in the decision that she made of whether or not she wanted to stay. Yeah. And she ends up asking him for her freedom. I think that she would have never ever thought that he would do that to her.
I don't think it was in her realm of understanding of him as a character. And my thing about it too is I don't think he would have done that had he not been questioned by these rabbis and had all of this stuff coming up. Because David also knew about Ronit and Esty from their childhood. And I think for him, his life was falling apart as well. And he was trying to keep I'm not making excuses for him, but trying to keep some type of semblance of his life together and trying to convince himself that, like, no, everything's fine. Everything's good. This is normal. Like, and so to have her be like, no, please don't, especially like right after she had just had sex with someone else, right? And for him to then do that, it's such a dichotomy of like a black and white of like consent and not consent.
Yeah.
And then the thing about asking him for her freedom is really interesting because I don't think freedom is something you can ask for. Like, obviously I'm not saying there's like a problem with the writing in the movie or anything. It's just a crazy thing to have to ask for your freedom.
Yeah. I mean, what freedom implies is that you're trapped or imprisoned in some way.
Right. And so then he says no. Like, he says no. And, you know, now he has to give this big speech at the funeral. And he's going through it. I think he's reckoning with his beliefs. He's reckoning with what he's done to Esty at this point. And also we find out, spoiler, and we forgot to say it, but Esty finds out that she's pregnant. Mm-hmm. And that's a whole nother layer when you bring a baby into something. And he's like, because she tells him that she's pregnant in the same breath that she asks for her freedom. And he's like, we've always wanted this. This is what we've wanted. And, you know, she's like, but I want to leave. I know that, but like, I want to leave. He says no. And then Esty brings Ronit to the hesped, to the funeral, and he has to get up and give this speech. And it's kind of like the bookends of this movie, where we have the Rav giving the speech at the beginning, and then we have David giving the speech at the end. And it's a redeeming scene, I feel like, for David. But it's a hard scene to watch, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and in this scene where Esty asks him for his freedom, right before that, she's been missing.
Mm-hmm.
And this was when Ronit had decided, okay, I'm leaving, I'm going back to New York. And she was at the airport, and David had essentially told Esty, like, whatever, make the decision you want to make. You either go with her or you stay.
Mm-hmm.
And so David was in his room sleeping, and Ronit was at the airport, and we see Esty kind of standing there in the dark looking at David. And then we see her leave. We see her go to a pharmacy, and she's just standing there looking at the medication. And this is the point in the movie where I thought that the Othello thing was coming true. And also earlier in the movie at the
I thought that's when she bought the pregnancy test. I thought that's why she went to the pharmacy. Okay, yeah.
She did.
I see what you were saying.
But my mind went somewhere else, because at this point we don't know she's pregnant, and I couldn't see I couldn't read what was on any of these.
Yeah, so you were thinking she was going to like get some medication and
Yeah. And earlier in the movie at dinner, there was a scene where Ronit kind of had a little bit of an explosion at everybody. And she had made this comment where, like, well, thank God that I didn't stay and get married and spend 10 years in a loveless marriage and then try and kill myself. And here's Esty, who stayed, got married, spent maybe 10 years in a loveless marriage, and oh my God, is she now going to kill herself? And now she's at the pharmacy. The love of her life just left, and she also just absolutely blew up her life. She just got raped by her husband, and like, is this what she thinks that her out is? So that's what I thought was happening. And then she took this medication that she bought, and she went to a hotel room, and then she's standing there praying. So then Ronit ends up coming back because David called her, and they're looking for her. And then that's when Ronit and David come back to the house. Esty comes down the stairs. She tells them, like, I'm pregnant. I want my freedom. I mean, that was a crazy loop that I got thrown for there. But
yeah, you really did. You really went through it.
Yeah, I did. But also I want to talk about at this funeral scene, it keeps cutting between these three friends, and you can clearly see the grief that each of them are going through, and they all have different kinds of grief on their face. And I think that they're all grieving different things.
Yeah.
I think that David is really grieving, this position that he was coming into and that he's been training for his entire life. And he's grieving this wife that he actually did love, and he's grieving his friendship with these two women as well, and he's grieving the way that his community perceived him, that's about to come crumbling down when his wife leaves him. And it comes out of what's happened. And then you go up to Esty, and she's grieving the friendship that she had with David, and she's grieving also the love and the friendship that she had with Ronit, because she doesn't know at this point what's going to happen with these two. And Ronit's grieving her father, and she's grieving this community that she's about to leave again, and she's also grieving the friendship. And it's just, you can see this all without words from any of them, just from the expressions that they're communicating.
Yeah.
It's really powerful.
Yeah. And then, David, during his speech, going back to like the Rav speech about choice in the beginning, he basically says, like, make your own choice. You have freedom. And he's giving this speech to the community, but he's giving it to Esty, like specifically. Yeah. And then he says, I'm sorry, I can't take this job. And he walks out of the hesped. And then we cut to a shot outside, and he's outside, and Esty walks out first, and David and Esty are hugging, and Ronit walks out. And again, like I keep going back to this like physical touch thing in this movie where David sees Ronit and he opens his arm to her, and all three of them hug, like, and it's almost like they're kids again. And it's almost like this could have been how it was, this is how it could have been, right?
Yeah, that moment was so beautiful.
Yeah, because Ronit and Esty like interlock their fingers around each other while they're hugging with their hands like on his back. And all three of them are just hugging of like, man, like the emotions they must have been feeling of like, we really fucked this up. We could have had it all. Like we could have just been three best friends, but like this really just got in our way. Like the expectations placed upon us by our community really got in the way, and we didn't get to live the way I think they would have wanted to had they had the choice. And I think David was really stepping into that, like, oh, we have free will. We have choice. That we should be able to make the choices we want. And really seeing that Esty was very trapped.
Yeah. That's a really interesting point to come to also, is I'm just going to put this on David as he's kind of the golden child, even though he isn't actually the Rav's kid. He sort of is.
Yeah.
And that puts him in contention with Ronit. And so we have that, as you said, the black sheep dynamic with the golden child. And so for him to step back and be able to take himself out of that position, that's not something that's easy to do.
Yeah. I'm thinking about it more, and I'm thinking like he kind of plays the father role in this story if it was like the story of the prodigal son, right? Where like Ronit is that prodigal son who returns home and like isn't accepted, but at the very end like gets the acceptance from David, which is not something it was like necessary for her, but like thinking about that parallel and then them like being on the same footing, that's kind of where my mind went just now. Cause you know, you saying, you know, giving up that golden child act or part that he was playing, it's kind of like they were all giving up the parts that they had to play.
Yeah.
So,
and maybe that's easier when the parent that's putting that expectation on him is gone.
Yeah.
As sad as it is, and they're both in mourning at this time, but like there's still other people putting that expectation on him, but mainly it seems like it was the Rav. And there's a lot in this movie of parent-child relationships, mainly between Ronit and the Rav. But you know, you take that immediate presence away, and this is what develops out of it.
They kind of get a bit of freedom once he passed away, as sad as that is. But let's be real here. He didn't seem like a great guy. Like, not that he was bad, but also like to like force Esty to marry David, to like shun his daughter. I mean, just, it's not like, obviously I don't wish death on anyone, but it does seem like they felt a bit of freedom once they came to terms with the death of the Rav. So ultimately though, sad ending, because Esty doesn't end up leaving with Ronit.
Yeah, it seems like she doesn't stay either, because Ronit tells her, like, tell me where you go. So she's just getting her own new start, maybe?
I'm wondering, I was confused. I'm still always confused by the end of this. I think she has to, like, get some things in order. She has to get a divorce. She has to figure out what they're going to do about this baby, you know, like, because Ronit says to her earlier in the movie, come to New York with me.
Mm-hmm.
Come with me. Come be with me. But I don't know. I really am confused by the end of this movie. And maybe some of our listeners can like chime in here and let us know what they think, because I'm confused. And Ronit like is going in the cab and going away, and then we see Esty running after the cab, and Ronit's like, stop the car, and Esty gets in the car and kisses Ronit again, and that's when Ronit says, let me know where you're going. Like it's confusing to me. Maybe I just don't have like the movie going literacy that I need, but I'm always like, what is supposed to happen here?
Here's my theory.
Okay.
I think that Esty is going to start a new life close to this community so that David can still be in the life of his child.
Okay.
And then, but that like she can still be free to be who she is, because I don't think that she's going to be allowed to live as she wants to inside the community.
No.
So I think that she goes somewhere close. Maybe she goes to London or something. She raises the child. David's allowed to like come visit. And then she goes and sees Ronit like every once in a while, maybe like leaves the kid with David on certain holidays or something. I don't know, but yeah, I think that that's their little future
arrangement.
Yeah,
I feel like a far more likely scenario is that she stays now that she has this kid. As somebody who has had children, it's a lot harder to leave once you have those kids. You need support, you need financial support, you need emotional support, you need all sorts of support when you have children. And it does seem like she's leaving, but I don't know if it's actually going to happen, because that scene where in the car where she kisses Ronit, it seems like it's the last time they're going to see each other. Like it really feels like an ending for them.
I don't know.
You didn't get that?
I think that her saying like, let me know where you end up felt like an opening to.
Yeah, but do you really think that Esty's going to let her know?
I think so. I don't think that Esty just like absolutely blew everything up to just let it go.
Yeah, I hope not. I need a Disobedience too. Oh, what was your overall, how are you liking your education? How'd you feel about this media that we watched?
I liked this movie. I'm excited to, in like a year, be able to talk intelligently about so many different things. Like somebody's gonna walk up to me and they're gonna be like, oh yeah, blah, 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 and use some reference, and I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, and I'm gonna go right back at them with something. And instead of my current state where I nod and smile and stare blankly.
Yeah. You're learning, and you're a good learner. We're gonna we'll do more. We gotta do, my list is ever growing for you, because I found out yesterday you haven't seen Bottoms.
No. I love School.
What do you mean?
I love School. I love learning.
Oh,
you said I'm a good learner. It's because I love School.
Well, and then I said Bottoms, which takes place in a high school. So I was like, oh, do you know the content? I was very confused. My bad.
Oh.
Yes. So we're gonna watch Bottoms. We'll watch Ammonite. We'll watch The L Word. We have a lot of content coming for Haylie here and for you guys. Oh my gosh, I love this. And then our next book is going to be Cascade. So we will be doing Cascade. Woohoo! Yeah, Haylie's flipping the book out. Mine's right over there on the counter. Julia, who's the author of our next book, is like part of our women's basketball community here in LA. And so everyone we know is posting their book that they just got it, because everyone's so excited for her or for them. And yeah, we're very excited to read it, and can't wait for you guys to read it. So order it. I'm pretty sure you can get it on Amazon now. You can also buy it from Great Books Publishing. Hold on. Is that what it is? I'm going to look because I want everyone to know. Wait. Oh, Great Place Books. And it's a short little read, it looks like. And Julia is a fantastic writer. So we cannot wait to read it. And then Julia has agreed to come on the pod and talk to us about it. So we'll have another author interview after that. Yeah, so stay tuned. And I hope you guys enjoyed this somewhat explicit episode. And please, none of our family listens to this.
You need chili peppers by the title.
Ooh, good idea. Okay, everyone. Love you. Bye.